Hey guys, happy Halloween! I'm over in Dakota and Eric's room. This is like the 5th time I've done it because Dakota keeps messing up my vlog. I hate him a little bit. Okay, so Halloween isn't that big of a deal for me because I don't trick-or-treat because I can't eat chocolate and that makes up most of all the good candy. Fuck you, Dakota, get out of here. Get out of here. Really, all I can enjoy is the sexy costumes, which is been very lackluster this year. I saw like some sexy soldiers in the hallway, but that's not hot. That's kind of lame. Sexy military-industrial complexes is cool, you know, not sexy. I do get into horror movies, and that's kind of the topic today. We're going to be dissecting horror movies, specifically 2 cliches associate them, that being Black Guy Always Dies First, and that the Virgin Always Lives. Well, I'm not going to be like, I'm not trying to disprove them, because they are real, but I want to add some context, maybe analyze them a bit, get a more deeper understanding. Okay, so Black Guy Always Dies First. This is clearly indicative of some type of latent racism in our culture. But I think it's a bit more complex than we think, or at least it's not so much like the writer or the director's like, oh, there's a black guy, we should kill him, we gotta kill him off. Or they're like, oh, this character dies, let's make him black. You know, it's more, I think, an issue of demographics. That being, which means most characters in horror movies die, and because minority characters usually make up a smallest percentage of the whole cast, the chances of them dying increase dramatically. Not only that, but because they rarely have a role as a protagonist or one of the main characters, they're just almost always going to die because it's the protagonist who survives to the end, if he does. There are, of course, exceptions to this rule. For example, in George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, the main character was a black guy, and he survived all the way to the end, and then was not, in fact, murdered by zombies, but by a group of white people who thought he was a zombie, which that was definitely a statement about racism. George Romero is pretty awesome. Okay, so the Virgin Lives. That's a interesting concept, and the idea is that, like, horror movies protect conservative values in regards to sex and sexuality, in that they usually punish characters who have sex or enjoy sex, especially if they're women, by murdering them. And it's the virgin character who doesn't have sex, who may or may not be an actual virgin, survives to the end and wins to save the day. So sexual purity is shown to be like, rah rah, all awesome. And that's interesting, and it's definitely, I think, a valid interpretation, and horror movies did kind of hit their peak in the 80s, which is also the rise of neoconservatism, so there's that. However, we should also, like, the makers and directors of horror movies, Wes Craven and John Carpenter, those are a bunch of liberal old guys, so they're not, it doesn't exactly jive that they would make something so pro-conservative. But, and in fact, John Carpenter has disagreed with that interpretation of his movie Halloween quite often. However, authorial intent, fuck it, who cares what they think, what's actually there. And what I find is that, yes, the virgin usually lives, but what's interesting is that the villain is also usually a virgin. For example, Michael Myers killed his family at like age 5, and so he went to jail, and it starts out a couple years later. That's when the movie starts. So he hasn't had sex ever. Same with Jason from Friday the 13th. He died also very young. Probably didn't have sex. He's a virgin. Norman Bates has such a messed up relationship with his mother that it doesn't seem crazy that he's also a virgin. So we get into a lot of characters, both heroines and villains, who are sexually inexperienced. And it's weird that these guys are the ones who the focus is on. It's weird that these are the guys who achieve some catharsis, it seems, through acts of violence. The heroines usually violently defeat the villains. For instance, the heroine from Halloween defeats Michael Myers by stabbing him violently. That's a very phallic, very penetrating image. I think it's this weird equation in movies horror movies specifically, between sex and violence. I think that's neat. So, just some stuff to think about. Hope you have a cool Halloween. Or, don't you do it! Don't you do it! Don't you do it!